Hey, what's up guys? Here's a very quick video on turning $10 into $1,000, $10 into 10,000, and exactly how you would go about doing it. Now pay attention to it because this is going to give you every piece of information you need, and by the end of this video I can guarantee you're going to be in a better psychological place, as well as have a better process to achieving the goals that you actually want to achieve in trading than going in circles over and over and over again, not getting anywhere. Here it goes, enjoy it. Thank you guys. So what I think I'll do is, as always, guys, questions, Q&A, ask whatever you guys feel like asking. We can talk about kind of anything in the chats. Good to see you, Shellings. What's up, man? Looking fly as ever. I'll start a little bit with what, kind of was just going on in Trade Talk. Maybe I can offer a little bit of my perspective, and maybe you guys can offer even your own perspectives, but it seems like there was kind of a discussion going back and forth, from what I can tell here, on what is it? Basically, the idea of, how do I even explain this? Yeah, so Mr. Riven here kind of spoke a little bit about the fact, or at least in his conclusion, that flipping accounts, or kind of, let's say, much higher risk, kind of aggressive, much more volatile, is a great way to gain capital with little money, provided you know the risks and accept the possibility of losing that money, right? So theoretically, what's up, John? Oh, this is you? This is you? Beginner or not beginner, every person is responsible for their actions. Oh, freaky, okay, I got you. Now, if you want to spread awareness, you can do that in it. Okay, something like that. So I somewhat can agree, somewhat disagree, but for the most part, the way that I'll kind of talk about kind of the idea of flipping accounts, because a lot of the time, you have to look at it this way. The likeliest person, I'll actually ask you guys, who is, and not John, you don't answer this, because I know you probably have your because you're part of this discussion, but who is the likeliest kind of person who will consider the idea of flipping an account in the first place, is the best way to start kind of looking at this overall discussion, right? And yeah, you guys are completely correct. I agree, right? It's ultimately, a lot of the time, a complete beginner who really just needs to find his quote-unquote footing in the market, who thinks that, a funded account actually means that they're profitable, a person that thinks like getting a $1 million funded account is all that matters right now, and then they can focus on real learning because now each trade is truly worth a lot of money, which they're not even wrong about, right? Theoretically, let's put out the theoretical into the world, because theoretically, many things are possible, right? But theoretically, if you buy a $1 million evaluation, right, with a loss of 6% on it, which is equal to, what's that, 60K, right? Okay. If you can basically get an account for 7,500, okay, flip it, or 80, I think it's 8,600 now, flip it into basically 60K of money you can use, right, or make this happen, then theoretically, yeah, right, you have a much larger account now than you ever had for a fraction of the cost that it would have ever cost. And now, theoretically, if you lower your risk substantially and just trade this, you are making a lot more than you ever made before. But, just like the conversation kind of went on, we're missing the actual nuance of this, right? So the nuance here isn't necessarily that it can work. It's more so, who does it work for and what does it actually do for you, right? So this is never going to work for like the intermediate or beginner, ever, of course, right? Because it's always going to end in the dump and it's going to end up being shitty. And the other side of it, funny enough, is what's the other side of a beginner or intermediate, right? It's someone that's extremely experienced and is doing this, okay? So can we all initially agree that if anyone's flipping an account, the only ones that are going to be doing it successfully and doing it at a level where they might get it and then can trade it would be an extremely experienced person? Can we all agree with this initially? Experienced. Okay? But now this brings in a very, very interesting piece of information, because now, if I asked you the questions of what was the process, so think back to the portal, those of you that have not worked fully through the portal, think about this right here in front of you. What is the process by which an experienced trader actually becomes quote unquote experienced? Let's say these are all steps. Okay? Well, an experienced trader truly becomes experienced. Let's say this is the pro level. When he's done what? Well, no way, now it's closed. That's very annoying. So this is how you kind of work your way backwards on something like this, right? So the only person, let's start it this way, right? The only person that technically should be flipping an account is an experienced trader. But now an experienced trader, and to reach this level, you have to go through a number of steps. And those steps will lead you to being a pro. And those steps, as per the portal material, as you guys are learning and as you guys are going to be doing it yourself, are as follows, right? I even made a little Instagram thing on this, so, follow me on Insta or whatever. But it starts with a system, which is what you're learning from the portal. You're learning a proper system to approach. It then comes with a proper risk understanding and philosophy. So before you even become anywhere near profitable, you have to have a fully developed understanding of risk and consistency. Then you need to have proof of that risk and consistency working, the data collection of proof of that, the backtest and the forward test, which leads you to a live area. So what's really interesting is by the time you become experienced, you're very, very, very rarely thinking about the necessity for flipping an account into a larger multiple. Because you now know that that's not what's making you a profitable trader. You know that's not what builds consistency in your own trading. And you're aware, even as an experienced trader, that you don't want to tarnish elements of the process in any way. Right? So it's a double-edged sword, or like it's a whatever you call it, a hypocritical thing, or I don't know what you would call it necessarily, but people that want to do the flip are a lot of the time beginners. And the only time a flip makes sense is when you're experienced. But to be experienced, you pretty much do and take all the actions initially that never lead, paradoxical, yes, thank you, that never lead to this kind of action. Right? So even though if you are experienced and you have a system and you're okay with throwing basically money away at the potential of a flip. So all you're really doing is you're saying, I'm increasing my risk to 33% on my account, to 10% on my account, and I'm literally just gonna lose this money and I don't care because I want to compound this by 100 to 200%. So I wanna, 2x to 4x my account before I even touch it. Then, I mean, okay, I guess, in that case, no one's going to stop you. And if you're very experienced, then go for it, be my guest. But a lot of the time, we're looking at this from the completely wrong perspective, right? Which is that this almost should never be done ever, right? And then something I did see was my man Riven here saying, where was it? It's irrelevant. This is a way to gain a bit of capital at the beginning of your journey of building your capital. It's the same as if I said delivering pizza is a good way to build your first $200 and you said, well, if you're in the 9 to 5 mindset, you'll never get rich. So these two things are not the same at all, okay? In the beginning of your journey or in the beginning of your trading, once you're profitable and everything, saying I'm going to flip some accounts to build my capital is very different than learning to become a financial analyst and in the beginning of your career flipping pizzas or delivering pizzas for $200, right? These two things are stark opposites. Right? Because one of them creates a true mental difference in the things that you are gonna be doing later. The flipping of the pizzas and the work that you're doing before is going to translate positively to the work you're gonna do in the future. Right? So this is where the stark difference lies, because it's not about the fact that it's the beginning of your journey. Now, this leads me back to another thing that I've spoken about a lot of times, and I think should be heard by a lot of people, which is that if you don't have the amount of capital that you actually want for your trading, there are only two ways that you should be acquiring more capital. One is through trading the system, simply trading the system with proper consistency, and two is through any other means or skill set that you have taught yourself over the last 20 to 30 years that you've already spent in the world learning to do on some level. Right? Does everyone kind of understand why, like, one, disagreements in this space, like, regarding these things don't really make sense. There's nothing to really disagree about. anyone is free to do as they wish, and if they are experienced, then for God's sakes, go do your thing, right? If you're experienced, you don't even have to prove to someone or explain to someone why your experience makes sense for you to flip an account. Go and flip it, right? Go and do your thing and just and do it, right? But the reality is, to tell someone or to discuss the fact that you're flipping an account amongst people that you know are in the intermediate or potential beginner stage, right? With the attempt to say, if you're good, you should do it, is going to only lead to a negative overall outcome for those potential people, right? There is a very, very small substrata of people that should just throw their money that is likely going to go into the trash to start with. Remember that, likely to go into the trash. And with some firms, not even allowed, right? So like with Ment Funding, I'm just going to let you guys know this. We have literally refunded people after they've completed their challenges, said, you are not someone we can trade with, because, you know, they took 2 valuations and both you could see that they're just boom, just all in, just hoping to rinse an account basically. And we're like, this is inconsistent, right? So if you're doing it with firms that allow, or you're doing it for yourself on your own account and you're okay with just blowing everything, then by all means do it. But don't try to like argue with someone about the fact that it's right, because there's nothing to argue, right? For the most part, it will hurt. And it will hurt the natural person, because the natural person should be only following this. And already, as we know, the natural trader that steps into this market is not doing these in this order to start with, right? As I said before, and as you'll learn about in the portal, because this video is already available, right? Most people learn about 50% or even 30% of this, right? They hear a new system, the support resistance break and retest system. They buy an account and they start right here, right? This is 80 to 90% of most traders in the world, right there. This exact cycle from boom, learn a little bit, to boom, I'm live on some form of a small account, on some personal account, because I need to make the money at higher risk, on a funded account, risking 1%, which is already too high, right? So what the fuck is going on? Right? It's not a good way to think about your own trading. You want to build consistent habits in what you do from the get-go, right? You need to have consistent habits from what you're doing, right? Because then if you have issues, if you ever have an issue, the first starting point is going to be like, well, dude, you kind of skipped consistency. You skipped ahead to doing crazier things, and as a result, you are now finding an ill amount of success. Right. So this leads me to one more thing that I really wanted to bring up for a number of you guys here, which is that please, every single person watching this at any point, continue working through the portal and make sure you are up to date. We are processing right now some of the most helpful videos I think I've ever made in my life, in terms of kind of paving the road, as I like to call it, right? The road is going to be so clear in front of you that it's going to feel almost unfair what you have seen. Okay, that I'm not even kidding. That's how you're going to feel. And if you don't feel that way, let me know in the trade talk after you've seen it. Okay, just let me know. But I think you will feel that way, and then let me know if you do feel that way. And that is specifically to do with the proper data collection aspect. And then we're processing videos on this, but right now the video that's being processed is this. That's about like an hour and 20 minutes, or like an hour 40 minutes, an hour and 50 minutes. So it's going to be one of the most helpful things you've seen, because if you have yourself experienced at the moment the confusion that comes with taking the information that you've learned, taking the information that you see me talk about, right? If you've had any issues with taking that information and using it right now on a realistic market, on a real system, then this video is going to change everything for you, right? It's going to change the way that you think. And it's really cool because, well, you get to go back into understanding how data is drawn from case studying, which is something that a lot of you have been doing. And that leads me to another thing. Case studying, as a lot of you know, you guys have lost your templates or your sheets, all of which are, you can see here. I have technically access to all of them, so I'm going to find a way to reach out to and get this all back to each person that lost one. But there was like a bunch of issues, so I'm working on figuring out how to get these back to you. So I'm working with their support. So just know that your sheets are likely safe, but I have to do a lot to get them all back to you. Okay, I just wanna make sure that everybody knows that. I put my phone away because it's buzzing for some reason, as always. But yeah, so you guys will get your boards back if you were taking anything. Shelling says, buy 4 cheap accounts, use 2 to play as buys, use 2 to play as sells. If you pass the 2, use the 2, blah, 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 blah. Nah, this doesn't work. So, I mean, it might work with other firms, but like if you did this with Ment Funding and between other firms, we can see that a lot of the time because we have a lot of departments that we work with. And the person will just lose their account permanently and never be able to work with us again, right? So like, again, you can you can go and do kind of this kind of stuff and make it work. But again, it's going to be inconsistent. It's not teaching you to do anything. You're not executing a proper system, and it's just like, why, right? At the end of the day. And most of the time, Shellings, this ends up costing more than just taking all that money, putting it into personal and trading it. Literally. Like, it literally costs more. Jacksaw says, I'm sure we all can remember the start of our journey. I'm going to make 400K for my G-Wagon with my $250 account within a month, within 4 hours. And this next trade will be the one. Yeah, this is literally the pinnacle psychology of anyone starting out and how we end up thinking about profitability, which is like, it's going to happen. I'm going to do it with a small account. It's going to happen very quickly. I'm going to do it within a month on my next trade. Here I go. Right, it's absolutely crazy. And something else that actually, like, I'll bring up right now that I've noticed is really crazy in terms of thought process and approach is there's a true belief for a lot of people. Like, I still get messages to this day that come to me and they're like, listen, Ment, how much money can I like start making from trading because I need money, right? Like, and I feel for them, but they're like, I need money. How much money can I start making? I'm starting with around $1,000. Do you think I could make something like that's truly amazing? Like, can I get, and I'm like, dude, like you need to think about this statistically and you need to think about it from a standpoint of true consistency, right? Because if it's your last 1K, which a lot of the time, the people that are trying to flip, flipping is the dumbest thing ever. You're gonna lose your quote unquote life savings, right? On the other hand, if you think you're turning this into 10K, right, you're out of your fucking mind. Right? Because, again, like, to turn this into 2K, just so you guys all understand, means that you have to make 100% on your capital. Right? We're not thinking about the number. We are thinking about a balance. A balance to a double balance is simply a 100% gain. Right? Over the last 13, 14 months, I've had a compounded 200% gain. That's really good, right? Uncompounded would be 100. So if I'm taking money out every single time I make money and I'm just risking the same thing every time, I barely scratch 100% in 14 months, right? In 15 months. You're asking me if you can do basically 1,000%, right? You're asking if you can do 1,000% in your initial starting points of learning, right? Which is crazy if you truly think about that, right? There's not a single skill set in the world that even lets you, for the most part, return 100 to 300 to 700% on your money each year, right? Based on the things that you end up taking. Like, there's very little that allows for those kind of returns, right? And yet, there's this belief that, like, I'm gonna take my 250 account and turn it into a G-Wagon, right? I'm gonna take my 1K account and I wanna turn it into at minimum 10K. I wanna take my 1K account and turn it into a funded that's a 1 mil at least by the time it's the end of the year, right? That's still an 8K gain because, you know, the 1 mil costs like 8K or something. So, like, there's a misunderstanding, a huge misunderstanding of how percent return should actually look on something, right? Because we shouldn't be thinking in this number. It's simply, you simply have to think in R multiples, R return, and think in terms of, if I move from here to here, what does that mean, right? That means I made 30% on my capital, right? For some people, if they have $1 million and they're just simply trading their system, and then after a year, they're up 300K, right? This is an insanely good and happy year for them, right? If they have 1 mil to their name, they just multiplied their own net worth by an extra 30%, by 1.3. For not free, but for doing the action of trading, right? But then again, the same thing applies to someone that's like, I need to make trading work for me, man. You know, I'm in the US, I'm making whatever, 60K a year. I'm gonna put in 5K and I really wanna multiply this to a point where I can full-time trade. It's like, well, think about what this would mean, right? To get from 5 to even 10K is 100%. But you're not even trying to do that. You're trying to get to 20K, which is 200%. You're trying to get to 40K, which is 300%. You're trying to make 300% so you can reach what you are potentially used to generally doing. Like if your idea of trading is that you're going to match, let's say, this earning potential with this amount in the beginning, or even in like a year for 300% gain, you're gravely mistaken, right? Which is why a lot of the time, as we all know, people end up quitting in their first month of trading live, right? And most people that quit don't even have, don't even have this thing under control, where it's like, okay, right? Whoops. It's like, okay, I'm ready to now trade live because I've done these 6 steps. Right? A lot of the time, the 6 steps don't even exist. Chris says 1,000% only, but should take more than 1 month because I really need the money. Yeah, exactly. Like I feel for anyone that says, you know, they need the money. But the reality is, if you need the money this much and this is the only way that you can make money, then, you know, it's like trading might not be for you if you think that like this is the answer to the problems, because you are treating it like a lottery ticket rather than a skill set. 10 to 1,000 best strategy ever. And guess what? Those videos do the best, because those are the kind of people that are a lot of the time involving themselves in trading. It's like, I have 10 bucks. I need to make it into 1,000, right? Like that's it. It's like, I got this flip. It's like, do you realize what you're doing there? Like what's the math? Final minus initial over initial. No. Final. Is that right? Minus initial over initial. Yeah, times 100. Yeah. You want to make a 9,900% return. Guys, really think there are people that are literally watching videos, come out of the video and go, I got this shit. And they're ready to go and hopefully on their next trading escapade, make 9,900% on a starting balance to completed balance. They're just ready for this right here. Think about this. These are the people that then end up quitting and go, you don't understand. This place is filled with only mentors and scams, and it's all bullshit. It's complete bullshit. I couldn't turn my 10 into 1K like the video told me I could. It's bullshit, right? It's like, dude, you want to make more money than most profitable traders have ever made in their life as a first timer. What the fuck is going on with you? Like, this is crazy to think about this. But yet, because people think in small numbers, it's only 10 bucks. I'm fine with losing 10 bucks. I can easily make it into 1K. It's like, because people see this number, they go, well, I can afford 10 bucks. I can throw $10 at this. Dude, I will make, for all of you, a fucking funded evaluation that costs $1. It will give you 10 bucks. And if you can do this and make 9,900% on it, I will give you the 1K account. Actually, I'll give you a 2K account. I'll double it for free. Guess what? You are fucked for life, right? This is not happening. And if it happens, you will never sustain a single thing of it, right? Like, yeah, I hate this space is one of the most toxic spaces in the world in terms of the kind of information that's in it and how you take advantage of someone that literally needs, quote unquote, the money or whatever, right? Because like 10 to 1,000 looks very promising. It looks like, holy shit, this is my answer to the problems, right? If you have a $500 debt for a car or an insurance claim or a medical bill, and you see someone telling you straight up, well, what's up, guy? Here I'm on PJ, 10 bucks to 1K, here it goes. You're like, well, if I just take 10 bucks, I can pay off this and have money left over. I can do this, right? Loss, lose everything, right? No shit. Very, very crazy space we are in.